Shopify grows your business no matter how far or big you grow. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling your fans' next favorite shirt or an exclusive piece of podcast merch, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in.
This summer is an excellent time to use our wonderful sponsor, Venue Llama.
VenueLlama.com. It's a new site that tells you everything that you need to know about the venue. Yeah, it's rated by us. It's like Yelp, but for venues.
Yeah, it is where live music fans share helpful insider venue reviews and information based on our own experiences, which that's who I want to get my information from going to a show.
Yeah, so we're all busy this summer going to shows and stuff. You want to go to the Sphere. You want to go to Mondegreen that just happened. What are those venues like?
Yeah, they have an entire breakdown of Dick's Sporting Goods Park up there. All the venues that we all love and go to, rated by fans that know the score. Like, what's the security like? What are the hotels around there like? What's the parking and rideshare thing like? Water policies, bag policies.
Where is there to eat around there? What's the parking like?
So there's
so many things.
Go to VenueLlama.com to sign up for your free Llama account and start rating and sharing your insider venue info today. Llamas can also list their favorite scene-friendly businesses, websites, or podcasts on the Venue Llama Friends page. Go to VenueLlama.com. Check it out. Get yourself some info. Be in the know. You don't want to go without being in the know. VenueLlama.com. ShopTourbus.com. ShopTourbus.com.
And
I'm going to say it 3 times. ShopTourbus.com.
at Shop Tour Bus on Instagram. And what are you going to do there when you get there?
You're going to see the coolest Grateful Dead inspired t-shirts, hoodies, hats, stickers, and otherwise ever created on the digital lot or the real lot anywhere on the planet.
They have been at this for a while, so if you have a favorite song or a favorite song lyric, chances are you're going to find the shirt to match it. I love these every time I wear one of mine.
You're wearing it now.
Yeah, I am wearing one now. It is an icebreaker. People that don't know the Grateful Dead even ask what it is and comment on how cool they are.
Yeah, so get your conversation starter in the form of a t-shirt or hoodie or sticker. And when you get that, you order that, it is going to come to you in a hand-designed box with a bunch of little extras. Some of us might even get a miracle bootleg in that said box.
You might even get a cassette tape with Grateful Dead on it. That's bootlegged, the real thing from Shop Tour Bus. Also, you're getting free shipping. Put in the promo code NoSimpleRoad when you order, and you're getting free shipping from the friends over at Shop Tour Bus. ShopTourbus.com.
No Simple Road. Yeah, here we go.
I know the road that may seem to go on forever and a lifetime.
Science is a liar sometimes. That's what we got out of the weekend, huh?
That's my favorite thing I got out of Fish Weekend. Out of everybody I saw and every song that they played, Science is a liar sometimes is my favorite message.
Wow. Yeah, we're back from Fish Dick's Weekend in body and partially in spirit.
I'm here all the way.
Hey now, Miss Overall family, what's up? It's Aaron.
And it's Mel.
And it's Apple.
And I'm here fully.
Well, good for you. I'm happy for you.
Thanks.
I'm here like
Well done.
I'm here like 73.
That's what I said. So I told Mel 77.
Right.
Yeah,
That's pretty
we're in the
close.
70s.
I would be doing 77, but I'm dealing with a tooth issue, which sucks.
Aw.
But yeah, it's gonna get dealt with.
We are back, and this episode of No Simple Road is part of our lead up to Cascade Equinox
That's
Festival.
right, Cascade.
If you haven't gotten your tickets for Cascade in Redmond,
There's
you
still
should-
time.
Yeah,
There's plenty of time to do it.
You're not lost. We have faith in you. You should come hang out with us. There's going to be so many amazing artists, including who we have on the show today,
John Craigie. First of all, you all, if you've been listening to No Simple Road for a while, you'll know that this is a big deal for us having John Craigie on the show.
Huge.
Yeah.
We've been wanting to have this man on the show because of all of his talent and how he's Portland native or local, not
Portland
native.
local.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not native,
local.
local. And just a dope human being, and has incredible connections with the Shook Twins and Frasco and music at large. And we're just happy for you all to hear this interview.
Yeah, we're stoked. He's actually playing Cascade on Sunday with the Shook Twins. So yeah, make sure you're there for that because it's going to be dope. And hey, speaking of dope, we're also going to be at Cascade.
We're going to be
Equinox
there on
Festival.
Saturday.
We're going to be on the Cosmic Drip stage. I think it's at 4:00.
Okay.
Live podcast
In
with
the
No Simple
afternoon.
Road.
Okay.
And I like the Cosmic Drip stage. That's where we were last time.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmic Drip.
That suits us.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Totally. Yeah, man. If you are not familiar with John Craigie, you should take the time before you listen to this episode, like pause it and go listen to some of his stuff. The Beatles stuff that he's done is reimagine the Beatles for me. It reignited songs that I've heard a billion times, and I felt like I was hearing them for the very first time. And then his solo stuff, his live at Mississippi Studios, is some of the funniest, most incredible stuff you've heard.
Yeah,
So
and then the album with TK and the
Holy Know Nothings.
you can do it, Apple.
Yeah, that was a tongue twister. The Pagan Church is amazing. And then September 20th, he's got the new album coming out, which I love. Greatest hits, ... Just kidding, ... Live, no hits. And he talks about that in this too.
Well, and
Looking
you know
forward
what?
to that.
I feel like after talking to him, he's just got such a positive, like, thought and ideas about the music industry, and that's kind of hard to do these days.
Yeah, he does have a very
Optimistic.
unique outlook and perspective on lots of different aspects of the industry that most people shit on, and he made me kind of see things a little bit different.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you're gonna enjoy this, and also
he's had an amazing journey through his
That's
whole.
true.
This is a great conversation to really get to know the man.
Yeah.
like
I feel like once you're done with this, you're gonna love John Craigie as much as we do already.
And then just throw it out there before we go on to you.
Tour
go,
dates.
Go to johncraigie.com and you can find out what's going on with him. Because nothing coming up until Cascade Equinox Festival, but then he's got a whole lot of stuff coming up after that, all through September, October, November. He is booked out for a while. So see if he's coming in your neck of the woods, and do not miss it.
Don't. And also stay tuned on Monday, No Simple Road Weekly Rewind. We will be doing a full recap of Fish Dicks Weekend. 4 days of fun in the Denver sun.
Well, it was 5 days.
Yeah.
because
night
were
zero.
there. Yeah, we definitely had a night zero, and
Yes, we
it
did.
was
Thanks, Chris.
super fun. And that our live podcast, can't wait to talk about it. If I think you guys can
I
already
posted
have heard it.
You can listen to it now.
But yeah, we get to talk about what we did.
We
You guys
did-
like
do
that,
you actually
right?
remember what we did?
Kinda. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
we-
Okay.
I actually
remember a
we
little
did
bit.
a lot.
We did.
We did a lot.
All right, we'll
There
get
was
to
a
that
lot.
on Monday though. So stay tuned.
It's going to be a 4-day recap, like a whole day spent on recapping each day.
I can't do it. I'll just tell you that right now.
I'm realizing as I try to talk how much I used my voice the last couple of days up there yelling and hollering.
You, Apple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like completely rejuvenated.
Well, that's
Like,
amazing.
It is amazing because I think that it's the sleep that I got. I even had to go to work the day after we got home and woke up early, did that. came home, slept early, and then
I think it's
did
that
it
you're
again.
9 years younger than Apple and 7 years younger than me.
It doesn't.
Those years stretch.
Yeah, but if
man.
you forget about the
she
years,
just takes better care of herself
That's
too.
true.
She
Yeah,
doesn't smoke. She doesn't
yeah.
a lot of things.
Whatever.
Mel's healthier.
Yeah.
She could be 10 years older than me and she'd still she'd be like, hey, damn it, Apple, get up.
This is true. All right. Follow No Simple Road at No Simple Road on all the social media platforms. Go to our website, sign up for the newsletter, get yourself some merch, sign up for a tarot reading. That's all the stuff you could do at nosimpleroad.com. Also, all the back episodes are up there. If you go to the past episodes tab and scroll down to the bottom, there's a little search bar. You could type the name of an artist in there, and if they've been on the show, it'll bring you right to the episode. It's kind of a neat feature that Mel thought of that I implemented.
Boom. Implemented the magic.
You know what? When I look at any kind of podcast that's been on for years or years, and you know that the podcast can be interesting, but you're like, how the fuck do I know what I want to listen to? Or how do I find an episode? Or it just makes sense to be able to type in who you want to hear if you have that about you, instead of scrolling and
Yeah.
and then you miss shit.
Hey, babe.
Because you're
What's
scrolling
that?
all
I'll
fast.
say it again for the billionth time. You were right.
You were right. And isn't it awesome that we have enough of a catalog now that you have to scroll and scroll?
Oh, yeah.
7 years is a thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway.
And you know what? I just want to say thank you to the people out there, because I've had some while we were on our little fish tour, thanking us, or me specifically, where we're talking, for keeping the show going for so long. I had
a few people say the same thing.
that, and I don't think that we think of that when we're doing the show, like, oh, it's gone on for so long. But consistency really is a form of stability, and when you can feel like look forward to something on Monday or Friday or any day of the week for that matter, and it's like filling your cup. I get it. I totally get it, and
I
so
do it with other podcasts.
Yeah. So you're welcome for everybody who's said that and who's felt it and didn't say it. It's a lot of effort, but honestly, like, it's the best thing that three of us have ever done together.
And we'll keep it rolling inside our fuego.
And that's the thing, to hear that from people, that it means as much to them as it does to us, keeping it going through the hard times and the world changes and everything we've gone through in 7 years. That's the best.
Yep.
And if you want to help keep us going, you can go to patreon.com/No Simple Road.
You get the episodes ad-free and a day early. You support us financially. You get Connor's picks and a bunch of other content that is exclusive only on Patreon. And hey, man, No Simple Road costs $1 a month, y'all. Just saying. It's the honor system out there, and nobody's checking, but it does cost $1. So go pay your $1 a month.
And the $5 a month still gets you one of those Lost
That's
Sailor
right.
keychains that we got.
Yep. This is true.
Yeah.
Also, tell somebody
It's
you
my
love about
favorite.
No Simple Road. That is important, but you can also call 971-808-1524. That's the No Simple Road tepid line. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And like I said, tell somebody you love about the show. That is the most
That's how it
important thing.
spreads.
Yep, that's how we spread the mycelial network that is our NSR fam.
Yeah.
And we love all of you.
So if you happen to love John Craigie and you're listening to this, share this episode. Share it with his mom. Share it with his sister.
Share it with your
Share
mom.
it with your friend. Share it with your
Share it
boss.
with your mom's sister.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
You get the point.
Yeah, you
share
get
share
it.
it with your pets.
You know the thing.
Darwin likes listening to us.
He does. He's staring at us right now. Anyway, we're going to get you to the episode. And without further ado, the No Simple Road crew gives you
John Craigie.
Well, some shows are good, some shows are bad, but mostly they're just strange. Tell me about your weirdest one, I'll throw mine back just the same. One time, 2 deaf girls were the only ones who came to my show. Try to beat that, my friends, try to beat that, you won't. Oh, oh. Oh, random house show in Montreal. The host didn't make it. She didn't even call. I sat awkward in the living room. About to give up when in walked these two, and they sat down, expected me to play. So I picked up my guitar, I started to sing. I got through about 2 or 3 songs. They didn't even clap, they just smiled in response. And one fell asleep, so I decided to take a break. Put down my guitar, walked their way. I stuck out my hand and tried to say hi. The awake one grabbed some paper to write. Mallory, sound is all I have, but I'll come back for you. I'll come back when I've learned more. But Mallory, right now sound is all I have. And she wrote down her name was Mallory. Apologized for her friend for falling asleep. Told me she was deaf, that's why she was writing. She asked me if I knew any sign language, and I wrote back that I did not, except the sign for pizza and the sign for smoking pot. She held the pen and wrote with a grin. What else do you need in the end, man?
Where are you guys?
In Portland.
We're in Portland.
Oh, cool. Me too.
Yeah, what part of town?
Laurelhurst.
Oh, damn.
Oh,
right
cool.
on.
Right
Yeah,
on.
we're over right by St. Vincent's and
Southwest.
on Barnes, Southwest, West Hills
Oh, cool.
area. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
We scored, man. We didn't know shit about Portland when we moved here, and we ended up here, and we were like, "Oh, this is cool here."
That's great.
Yeah, man. So, John, tell us everything about your life from the beginning till now. Just go, man.
That's it.
From conception until now. Oh. And by the way, we have been wanting to have you on for a while, so this has finally happened, and very glad to have you.
Yeah, man.
Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we actually have a mutual friend, Frasco.
Oh, yeah. Love
Yeah.
Frasco.
He really loves you too.
He turned us on to you a while back. We were driving him back to a show, and he was sitting in the passenger seat of the car, and I was like, Frasco, what music do you listen to, man? And he was like, I don't know. I don't really listen to music too much. I'm like busy writing it and stuff. I do listen to John Craigie a lot, though.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's how we found out about you, John. Well,
sweet.
welcome to No Simple Road, brother.
Thank you.
Um,
Good to be.
Let's start with the new album, man, with TK and the Holy Know Nothings. How did that happen? That's a hell of a thing you did there, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it was kind of a long process. I made a record in 2017 called No Rain, No Rose here in Portland that had Jay Cobb and Tyler Thompson, two members of the Know Nothings. That band didn't exist at that point, as far as I knew, but they're friends of mine from Fruition. And then Louis Longmire, I had known forever. That member, Sidney Nash, had played with Shook Twins. Taylor, I just knew from the songwriter scene, great songwriter.
Right.
And then they started that band, and it was really hot in Portland. Everyone was talking about it, and was lucky to have them as friends. And I had written this song during COVID called Lori Rolled Me a J that was more rockin' than I could really put out on my own. And I think they asked me to come and sit in with them at a show they were doing. This was like a COVID type show, outdoors, spaced out, like
Right.
40 people or something. But they had a bunch of nights, and I came each night, and I think I showed them that song the first night. It's really easy, a couple chords, and we played it, and it was really fun, and they really did a great job. And I think I said, let's record this, and we did. And then I think it was either T-Tom or Taylor who said, like, you got any more? Liked it. And I said, yeah, I think I do. And then I started sending them demos, and it all kind of came from there.
Wow.
And you just had them just in the bag waiting, or is that normal to just have a bunch just waiting to go out?
I think it was the right time. I think I had just put out Mermaid Salt, which I think for me, usually, like, once the album comes out, all the songs that were kind of waiting around for me to be present start to kind of flood in. Not that I don't write during an album's mix cycle. I just I can't really focus. But then once it's kind of like when you're at the end of a relationship, you know, maybe there's people that you would want to hook up with, but I can't even think about that. But then as soon as you break up, you're like, all right, I guess I can.
I got it.
I can think about this now.
Really not the best metaphor. I apologize, but
That's a great metaphor. I like it.
I think we all got what you were talking about.
I spent part of today going back through your catalog and listening to Abbey Road Lonely.
oh, cool.
And I'm going to gush a little bit, please excuse me. It was like hearing those songs for the first time.
Oh, thank you so
much.
man.
It you know, we've all heard the Beatles a trillion times, and those songs are, for a lot of us, are ingrained in our DNA. And to have an artist take those things and strip them down the way you did and put your touch on it, it was really something special, man. Thank you for that. I actually was like crying at work listening to Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah, it reawoke the songs. It really did. It freshened them up and also scaled them down, which when you hear, I mean, everybody loves the Beatles. So when you hear it, you're like, it's the perfect song. But then you sing it and then it's like, this is a perfect song. It's really awesome what your commentary, the whole thing, the way that you have cultivated your career is really fascinating. I love that it's not strictly just the music, even though the music is so rich. You've got a lot of your personality in it, and it really, you know, adds something to the whole entire package of what you bring as an artist.
Did you ever want to be a comedian?
Yeah, definitely. When I was a kid, I was like the funny kid in school.
Okay.
Way before I had any promise in music. I didn't think that I would do that as much as I loved music.
Right.
But I think when I started playing music, I grew up in the 90s, you know, when music was pretty serious, I guess, you know, I mean, I didn't know of people like Arlo Guthrie or Loudon Wainwright or those guys until way later. I didn't grow up with that. And so I started playing music and I just was very serious on stage with it. And then I think I must have seen Arlo or listened to one of those guys, and I thought, oh, this is genius, you know. And then of course there were many people that did that I was not aware. That really helped me be able to combine the two. But that was the easier part. Not to say that being funny is easy, but bringing that in was less challenging than being, you know, playing music. That was much harder for me.
Heady Wax Fiends is the place you go if you are a vinyl enthusiast, if you are a music lover, if you're somebody that loves community, one of those things or all of those things put together, Heady Wax Fiends is the place to go. Heady Wax Fiends is an inclusive vinyl record collecting community with an in-house, independent, monthly mail order subscription record club. They deliver exclusive vinyl to your door every month and offer subscribers first dibs on small run exclusive variant albums and add-ons. And you never pay for shipping when you bundle additional purchases into your monthly boxes. That's right. The August record of the month is the Jaunty's February 18 show from Sandpoint, Idaho. We are in the midst of presenting the Jaunty's Pacific Northwest
As we speak.
Check out the homepage at headywaxfiends.com for a list of past and future 2024 releases, and browse the in-stock titles on the past releases on the Fiends Vault exclusive pages. They're offering the No Simple Road family free records of your choosing when you subscribe today with a 3-month or 6-month payment plan. Use the promo code NSR on a 3-month payment plan for 1 free in-stock title or 2 free in-stock titles with the purchase of a 6-month payment plan. This is the place you go when you want to hang out with other people that love music as much as you do and get dope-ass vinyl delivered directly to your door. Heady Wax Fiends. You started off, you were a math teacher? Is this true?
That's true. It's become more lore than anything. I went to Santa Cruz for college. I did get a degree in math, which sounds impressive, but honestly, everyone was just high at that school. And every class was the same, whether it was biology, they were like, cells, man, what? And,
It's cool.
yeah, math class was like equations, what? And so it was all kind of the same thing. And so I got that degree, and I was not, I was playing some music in town, but not successfully. And so I needed a job. And a friend of mine was teaching in Watsonville, which is the town south of Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
So I think I called some guy and I was like, hey, man, I have a degree in math. And he was like, great, come teach. And so I did teach very briefly a high school math class that was pretty relatively disastrous in the sense that I wasn't good and I didn't know what I was talking about. And I didn't want to. I realized that when I got there, I was like, oh, I don't want to do this at all. Like, teaching's hard. You got to be a disciplinarian. You got to be kind of a cop in some ways. And I had my piece and long hair, and I was like, I don't know. So that only lasted very briefly, and then I started to tour around doing coffee shops and stuff after that.
Where did the love of music start for you? Was it way back when you were young, or was it a little bit older when you were in college? Or
yeah, for sure. I think it was so mystical to me. I grew up in Los Angeles, but like in a sort of a square part of it, neighborhood, and there just wasn't a lot of people. There was nobody playing music in my childhood. And so, but of course, this was the late 80s, early 90s. So music was very prevalent, MTV and K-Rock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So music was very cool, but it definitely felt like this mystical, untouchable art. And my sister was my older sister, a very cool older sister who was older than me, so she was more of an 80s girl. So she was playing me a lot of Cure, Smiths, Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, early U2, Violent Femmes, all that stuff. So I really, I just thought it was really amazing. And then it wasn't until I was 16, a friend of mine got a guitar, and then I was like, oh, you can do this. It's possible. I didn't know you could I thought you had to be like Beethoven and have a gift from God and be trained your whole life. It was really cool my friend just was like, no, this Green Day song is really these two chords. And I was like, wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're teaching everything you learned at Santa Cruz, which is cool, equations.
Yeah.
And
to surly high school students.
Kids. Oh my God.
Yeah, they were not having it.
Fucking nightmare.
you mean they didn't love you?
I just think that would be the word, teaching high school students, because they're full on attitude and think they're grown ups by then, and we're like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And mind you, I'm 22.
Oh shit.
Coming to Santa Cruz. So my maturity is I'm probably like 15, years old. Maturity, and they could smell that on me for sure. And like I said, peace necklace. I don't know what my uniform was, but I was probably wearing, a Grateful Dead t-shirt or something like, I was very much something to make fun of, I'm sure, for an angsty kid.
It's a crazy world, I'm telling you.
Sure it
is.
You guys feel the craziness?
I'm feeling it.
No,
well,
man,
I know
what you're talking about.
I know something that can give you relief when you need it.
What?
That is our sponsor, Melt Mushrooms.
What?
Yeah,
What are they going to do for relief?
Well, you can go over to @meltmushrooms on Instagram. You hit them up, you send them a DM, and you tell them you would like to see their wonderful menu. Then you know what they do?
What?
They shoot you over a menu.
Whoa.
And then it's up to you to decide from 10 flavors of wonderful chocolates that's infused with their mushroom blend.
What if I don't want chocolate?
Well, then they have 3 flavors of gummies
Oh.
that
What
you
if I
can
don't
have
want
also.
gummies?
Well, then they got you covered there too, because they also have gel caps.
Whoa.
Dang.
And they are giving the No Simple Road family a deal. Buy one, get one half off. That's right. Right now, Melt is hooking everybody up for that end of summer swing. So go follow @Melt Mushrooms on Instagram, shoot them a DM, tell them we sent you, get that deal and get your head right. Melt Mushrooms. So obviously you'd been playing guitar. Was it like a dream of yours at that point? You're like, I wonder if I could do the thing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. A very distant dream, like a incredibly untouchable, unfathomable dream. But just being able to, when I was 16, I remember just being able to play songs, sing in my room was really cool. I really was really happy with that. I didn't think more would come of that,
Yeah. And so, I mean, it takes a lot of balls to just like, I'm going to sell everything and buy an Astro van and go for it. Like,
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, I don't know. You probably have this sometimes when you look back at your younger self and decisions you made, and you're just really stoked that that person did that. I mean, it was in Santa Cruz, it was happening. I mean, I was meeting people who were doing that, you know what I mean? Like to a certain extent. And I was around a lot of musicians, and I remember my Aunt Gail, really cool aunt of mine who lived in Boulder. She was the first person to suggest that I like go on a tour. She was like, "Come out here. I want to hear you play. We have coffee shops in." I think she even said like, "Just book a few in between Santa Cruz and Boulder," which I did one summer. And I think yeah, when I did that, I didn't lose money. You know, it was in the early days. It was not that hard. It was about $40 to fill that tank.
Right.
And the Astrovan, I could usually get to a town on one tank. So just needed food, which a lot of times the coffee shop would give you. And you could sometimes squeeze out an extra sandwich if you were nice enough. And you could I could sleep in the van, or people would often give me their couch very often. And, between tips and a couple of burned CDs, wrapped in newspaper, it wasn't that hard to make $40 a night. It really wasn't that hard. And some nights you'd make more, and some nights the venue would actually pay you to be there, which was crazy back then. And so I didn't make money those first couple of years, but I was just not losing money. And I was smart enough to know kind of how to navigate it. I think that just gave me hope that I could at least keep doing that, which I was really into.
So when you're like, you now looking back on that, did you think that like there'd be a John Craigie team and a manager and all the fucking PR and all the stuff? Like,
no, definitely not. And it took a long time of doing it to even think that would happen. I think many people around me were having much more success, as I just kept trudging along. But I really, not to say, if kids are listening, not to say that you should have low expectations. It's good to believe in yourself, but it was nice that nobody around me was kind of like, "You're going to be great, son." I just really didn't think I was, which allowed me to just be happy in every little thing. You know what I mean? The first time I sold a CD, the first time someone wanted my autograph, the first time someone covered my song, all these little things, really were cool, even though they were small time. They really, each time I was like, wow, I didn't think this would happen. And that's been nice for me.
I mean, that right there is, not to be too like woo about it, but that's living a life of gratitude.
Yeah,
that's what that is, man. I mean, if we're not grateful for the little things and only the big things, life is a fucking drag.
Totally.
Yeah. Yes.
So then what made you, at what point did you move down to Portland and, start your career here and start doing, music?
Yeah. So I was born in 1980. So if I look at things in like these sort of decade chunks, the early 2000s, I was out of college and I was doing this coffee shop thing for about 6 years, from about 2004 to 2010. And right around then is when things started to be just a little bit successful. Like I remember right around 2010, I started to be able to like charge tickets for shows. Not everywhere, of course, but like California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington. I started to be able to do that. Just $5, or house shows. And I remember my friends, Shook Twins, who I had met on the road, who were doing great. They moved to Portland. And I just spent the next few years really kind of like coming through here a lot, staying with them, building like one of my better fan bases was here. So I could really like hang here and do well. And so then in 2014, it was getting to the point then where there was enough success where it was actually like really not conducive to not live somewhere. I was out of the Astrovan life was becoming extremely complicated, like with merch and whatever checks being mailed to me, like actual people, which had never been a problem before. Because
I need an address.
Yeah. The address stuff. And so it just came down to where I could live anywhere. And I remember it was between Austin, New Orleans, and Portland. Those were my three favorite cities at the time, and seemed affordable for a musician, roughly speaking. But Portland just was the better one. It had the most friends. I'm a West Coast guy, was West Coast, and New Orleans and Austin are very hot in the summer. I didn't want to deal with that, and I just didn't. Also politically speaking, it was hard for me to wrap my head around a Texas or Louisiana life. So Oregon was just so welcoming. It was really nice. And so that's kind of what got me here about 10 years ago.
There's something very special about this place for certain people. We moved here 8 years ago. We moved here in 2016 and from Vegas. And
wow.
Talk about hot in the summer. And just coming through here before we ever even decided to move, there's a vibe here. Something, it felt like home. It's very strange, man. And I've noticed that for the people that pay attention to that thing and end up moving here, this place is really like nurturing for folks.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
In 8 years, we built such a friend group, like way bigger than growing up our entire lives in Las Vegas. What we built in 8 years here has just been amazing. And then doing the podcast for 7 years, the music scene here, as you know, is just amazing. Every night of the week, a lot of cities you can do it, but every night of the week you can go out and see somebody There's so much going on, and we just fell in love with that. Mm-hmm. And it keeps on getting better all the time.
It's the truth.
All three of you guys moved from Vegas to here?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron and I are married, and these two have been friends for 40 years.
40 years this year we've been friends.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
Doing this was a total fluke. My son bought me a mic for Father's Day in 2017 and was like, Dad, you guys talk about the Grateful Dead all the time. You should start a podcast. And I was like, I don't know. And now, 8 years later, we're talking to you. It's crazy.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's dope, man.
Awesome.
John, traveling around and seeing the country the way you did, and then moving up here, you've had the opportunity to see the musical community in a lot of places. How do you think that the community here in Portland differs?
Well, one thing I always tell people is that compared to, it's hard to compare cities nowadays. Everything's so broad and it's hard to generalize, but compared to a Los Angeles, a Nashville, even in Austin and New Orleans, something about Portland, I don't know what it is. There's no competitive spirit. And I think I shouldn't say that. So that's a big statement, but I don't feel that kind of thing. And I think because Portland doesn't have the most amazing music scene. It has a great music scene, but it's not like a Nashville, LA, where you couldn't just live in Portland and work every night. I guess technically maybe you could, but if you really want to be a musician, you got to go out there and do stuff and tour. So, which I think is really good, because what I notice is everyone here is working. They're doing whatever they're doing. So it's just very supportive. And it isn't like you're taking someone's gig. I don't think that, which is like a thing in other cities. And I think also I don't feel this desperation of someone being like, I'm trying to get noticed or signed, because again, that wouldn't really happen here. It's not like in Nashville or in LA or New York. So it's just cool. Everyone's just happy, supportive, and digs each other, and it's a good music scene, as they should, and collaborates more. And it's easy to collaborate with people, and I think Pagan Church being a good example of that. That really was not something that we struggled over, or there was no ego stuff there. It was all for the greater good. And those guys were so amazing and so supportive, to add to that without any kind of ulterior motives. And I don't see that in it's like this right balance, right? If I go to somewhere in South Dakota, probably pretty supportive music scene, but not enough of one to So to me, Portland was right there in the middle, where it was you can live here, be a musician, and there's great gigs everywhere. You still got to work for it, but I didn't feel any of that that negative energy or desperation, which was hard for me to feel in other cities.
It's totally true. You hit the nail on the head. We've seen a lot of it now, and I've never seen a more like supportive, collaborative group of people. Like nobody's giving each other shit. No, it's just super sweet.
Somebody needs somebody to sit in on any instrument. Everybody's got a handful of people to reach out to.
Totally. And then Sean McLean shows up.
And then Sean McLean shows up to everything with the saxophone.
So you said that you had met Shook Twins on the road, and that's the first time I'd seen you. They pulled you out when they were at the Get Down. I think it was last year.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
that was first of all so awesome. You said you met them on the road. Can we hear the story? Because they're awesome.
Yeah, those
so
two
awesome.
Amazing
those two
human beings.
And yeah,
oh, for sure. If I ever write a book, this would be a very pivotal chapter of when I met them. It's 2007. I had been doing it for about 3 years. Like I said, very randomly across the country, mostly coffee shops. A few towns would have someone really sweet who would put on shows for me, still usually free and like no money, but they would be nice enough to say like, hey, I'm going to like throw a night. There'll be a bunch of acts on the bill and you'll play half hour. And there was a guy named Patrick in Spokane, Washington, who would do that for me. And one of the trips in 2007, he said, hey, I got this band you're going to open for. They're called Shook Twins. They're two twins from Sandpoint. I think you'll like them. And yeah, we played a winery. Not many people were there. They were just a duo back then. And they were just so fun and sweet, and I loved their set, and they were nice about mine. And just very briefly after the show, I think they drove back home, but we just chatted a little bit and really hit it off. And I think they said something like, you got to come to our town, Sandpoint, which like, if when you're that type of musician, someone just says, you got to come, you're like, I'm there,
Fine.
I'll go, whatever you say. So I think it wasn't that long, probably a month or two later, they had set up a little show for me in Sandpoint. And I think they had maybe learned some songs of mine, and they got up and sang with me, and I knew their songs. I think I played some guitar, and just, it was very, I was sort of raised by two sisters, and my parents were working a lot. I have two older sisters. So I think something about the two of them, I just immediately sort of was drawn to that kind of support.
Yeah, that dynamic.
Yeah. It was like right away, it was sort of a new kind of family. Not to mention that the town of Sandpoint is so wonderful, and their extended family there is so great. And so, yeah, I think we just kept on touring together. And then that summer of 2010, when they moved here, then we really got close, because I was just always coming through and staying on their couch. So
that's awesome. What great.
They've been from that moment, just been, some of my biggest supporters and biggest like, it's hard to think of what it would be like if I had not been there that day in 2007. So,
wow.
It's a trip to, like we've been talking about a minute ago, like you look back on your life and there's these like pivotal vignette moments that happen that like change everything. You could see where the road split from that moment on, and you look back on those things. It's pretty mind-blowing to see, and it's even more mind-blowing to find people that are in your corner from the jump.
Yeah it's amazing. It's like such a gift, and we all have that, and in this now sort of world where it's very indie, and you spend a lot of time, in the beginning doing it yourself, those kind of connections are everything for you.
So like, how is it? I mean, it sounds like your stuff has been indie from the beginning, and now it seems like the music industry has gone a lot more indie, in the sense where like, not a lot of people are getting like signed to labels and have all this money to back you and create these albums. So has anything changed for you personally since that kind of, the shift to like streaming and all that stuff?
Yeah, that really helped me a lot. I mean, it's funny, because if I was 20 years younger now, just starting now, it would be such a different reality for me.
Yeah.
not to sound like such a when I was a kid thing, but
We all have that.
yeah.
I do it all the time, man.
But if I were to say that my career started at 24, which is there's a lot to that seems pretty basic. 2004, yeah, none of that stuff existed, and so yeah, part of my attitude of like I said, where I was like I didn't plan on anything big happening was just because you did really need those kind of things like a label
Yeah.
and so yeah, I didn't feel defeated by it, but it just really seemed not possible. And so, but it was cool to see all that stuff sort of happen as I was going. So I don't remember when CD Baby started, but that was cool. Like just the notion of like being able to tell my fans, hey, if you want to buy my CD, here's where it is. And then of course they would mail it to you and stuff like that. But that was a big deal,
Right.
because before that, the only way someone was going to have my CD was if they bought it at my show at the coffee shop, or if someone burned it or whatever, you know what I mean? But, and then the streaming thing I remember was so crazy because in the early days, the first one was Pandora, if you remember. That was the first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah. And Pandora, you had to be accepted by them. There was like, you couldn't just like give them your music and they would put it on no matter what. And I remember it took me a couple times of being rejected by Pandora till they finally got me in. Now, of course, being on Pandora wasn't like being on Spotify. It was still more complicated, but I started to watch, that notion of somebody being able to check me out for free, if you will, as opposed to having to buy it. And then, of course, one of the things I was talking about sort of like 2010, the shift of being able to sell tickets, Spotify was right around the corner. Maybe 2012, I think, when that hit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when everything changed, because what would happen then is you'd go to a town that in the earlier days, it was like I'd have to grind, go to Boise, play to 2 people. Then those 2 people would turn into 4 people and 4 to 6, But all of a sudden now with Spotify, I show up to maybe Minneapolis and maybe I've never been there before. And all these people are there because they were able to, because there's a big difference between your friend calling you and saying, hey, you should check out this guy's music. And they're like, okay, if I don't know how to do that, like, as opposed to here's a link to a free way to check out all of this guy's music. And that was a game changer. And I know a lot of musicians complain about streaming, and I'm not disparaging that, but for me, because I never came from a place of wealth before that, it's really like was a huge game changer for me, and basically made it that people could know who I was.
Wow.
Without any help from it. This is before I had a manager, before I had anything. I was just a guy who played guitar and drove around, and still all of a sudden now I'm selling out, little 100-seat rooms in San Francisco or whatever, but mostly because of that.
But
when that happens to you, that's got to be mind blowing all of a sudden. Like, oh my God. And I'm sure too, when it got to that point too, like social media probably played a big part in getting word out there.
Totally. There's some of that too, for sure. But like the first time I went to Europe, I remember thinking nobody's coming to these shows. Like, it's impossible. And people would come and I would ask them at the merch table, like what, and it was 99% Spotify, maybe 1% somebody. Yeah. Or streaming or whatever. I don't want to put it all.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. And that's something that I think that when someone is complaining about those streaming services, I just try to like remind them about that part of it, and also remind them as a consumer of music that we all are, how many things have we discovered because of that versus what in the days before, my life before streaming was definitely way narrower. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
And also it was just like, well, I'm not going to listen to that weird Bob Dylan album because I don't want to buy that weird album.
I think we were all like, I'm 9 years older than you. So
cool.
I think we were all in our lane a little bit more.
Yeah, we were more genre based as far, because like we weren't going to go unless you were really musically inclined to like.
Yeah, if you were adventurous.
Yeah, exactly. But you kind of like, oh, I listen to pop or I listen to R&B, and you just kind of didn't get out of those lanes until, you're right, streaming kind of brought this whole new stew of things to try.
I remember, I don't know what year it was. It was early 90s. I was, hardcore Deadhead, Fish and Grateful Dead, and grunge came on the scene. And it was like this brand new, shiny, amazing thing. And the only way that you would find out about stuff like that was either your buddy would say, hey, have you checked out this band Nirvana or whatever? Or that you listened to the alternative radio station in your town and they happened to play it. And then you found out about it. So I see 100% what you're talking about. And the conversation around the streaming and all that, I think, is more about people getting paid than being found out about. But you have to look at the thing holistically and say, what is it doing for my career and my ticket sales?
Yeah.
It's complicated for sure.
Totally.
It is multi-layered, and I'm sure different people before us had different struggles like that. I don't know who knows when you first could start copying cassettes. I don't know if that was I don't know.
Yeah. Growing up in California, I read an article today that you had done. It said that your family was kind of square, and that your parents, like, it was the Kingston Trio was the thing.
And even that was rare. That was something that my dad liked, but it was not even, I would have loved to have heard Kingston Trio every night, but it was I could probably count on one hand the times that we sat and listened to that, but I really clung to that.
Yeah.
Because my parents were just busy, and I think of that generation, music was just not the thing. It was, and I remember my dad, he also liked the Doors a lot, but I think he just really thought they were cool. But then probably one time in my life, we sat and listened to Light My Fire, but it was enough for me. Like, that's all I needed. And then I would go and I found my way to the Doors and stuff. So anyway, I cut you off. I apologize.
No. I'm just curious about, like, are they around to see your success?
That's a great question. My dad passed away in 2021. So he saw some good stuff. And my mother's still around, and I think music is a weird thing and a weird job. But yes, she has, I think, probably the most significant for them, because they were a little hard on me in my 20s, because really I spent about 6 years of my 20s. For me, it was great, but I was not, making much money, and it was not looking good. You know what I mean? Like,
Where
like I said, I was watching
this?
other musician friends of mine, Shook Twins, Brett Dennen, were like doing the grind, and then stuff was happening. Things were building. And I was like playing the same coffee shop every time I went to Boise for 6 years to the same amount of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give or take a few. But so I think my parents were kind of like, oh gosh. And they lived in Los Angeles, and the shows there were pretty rough, because LA is a rough place until you start doing pretty good. But early days LA is brutal, and so, but I think in 2017, I got that Jack Johnson run, which was really epic. And they came to the Santa Barbara Bowl show, which of course was like extremely sold out, because that's Jack's one of his hometowns.
Yep.
And so that was a significant night for them to be like, oh, this is happening. Something's happening here. And it's at that point, we're talking 13 years of them watching me fail, if you want to call it that. And so there's a really cool picture. It's in another room, but it's my dad and I, he's shaking my hand, and he's got this big smile. My sister framed it for me, because she's like, this is the moment when he was like, it's okay.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So, but what about your sisters? Because they were the ones that introduced you to, music and all that. What was their take on seeing you, like, in your 20s, like, hoofing it, and then coming,
brother's out of his mind?
Yeah, like, what are you doing, little bro?
Yeah, my sisters have always been the best. Like I said, they were kind of the surrogate moms when my parents were out working, and so they've just been so supportive the whole time. And they were just
Right
like
on.
that kind of sweet supportive, where they weren't going to be like, how are ticket sales? They would be like, I'm listening to your album so much, or this is a great song. And when I would play in Santa Barbara, where they live, they'd come out always front row. And so they were very excited. I think everyone was when the Jack Johnson stuff, when all that stuff started happening, they were just like, okay, I'm sure they were like, we don't have to feel sorry anymore. I was
Well, what was it like receiving that call? Like
Yeah.
on a personal level, like I'm sure you clearly knew who Jack Johnson was
Yeah.
and loving his music. Like, I mean, that's like
After busting your ass on the road.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, would be another significant chapter in the book. And I won't bore you with the very long story, but the short version is that he heard one of my live albums that had come out in 2016.
Just
the Capricorn.
randomly?
It's a funny story, actually. Somebody gave it to him, a friend of his, that had seen me at like a tiny house concert.
Oh, wow.
And he told me, he was like, I was not going to listen to that CD because as you know, if you're Jack Johnson, people are probably always giving you CDs.
Right.
But just by chance, he was on his way up to do a road trip with his wife through Big Sur, and they were in the rental car, out of service, Spotify not working, nothing on the radio.
Yes.
And his wife was like, I guess we could put this in, and it just so happens that Jack is really into that kind of like Arlo, Todd Snyder, Greg Brown storytelling guy. So I think he was excited. And I think he was like, this is like a total nobody, which at that time in 2017, I was doing okay, right? Like I was playing like Mississippi Studios, selling that out. I was doing all right. For me, I was doing amazing. It was beyond dreams. And then through sort of a funny backwards way, he got me out to Oahu to perform a show with some of his friends put on that he came out to. So we hung out at that time. This was February of 2017. And he was so sweet to me, and I stayed at his house and everything, and it was very surreal. Of course, I knew who he was, and his keyboard is Zach Gill, who I don't know if you guys know ALO.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Zach plays with Jack, and so there was some degree of separation there. Jack didn't know who I was, but I knew a lot about him, and I knew he was a good guy. But yeah, it was really good timing because I think a couple of weeks later, his managers were like leaning on him to pick his support for that summer.
Wow.
And again, the timing, he only tours every 3 or 4 years. So if I had met him a year later, it would have been years to wait. And so, yeah, the call was funny because I remember he called me, it was early for me, like 8 a.m. or something. And he's in Hawaii, so he must have been up really early. But he said something like, what's your summer looking like? And of course I had stuff booked. I'm not stupid. They were small things, but I had I said, I got a few things booked. He's like, well, you're going to want to cancel them.
Oh.
And it was really, and it was like, I was like, well, and then he starts rattling off. He's like, the Gorge, the Greek in Berkeley, Santa Barbara Bowl. And I was like, wow.
Looks like I'm canceling.
And yeah, and I had a manager at that time. And I did not have a booking agent, but I told him, I said, I have some agencies here. We'll go through it all, but it all worked. They were so nice to me that summer, and it was really, it was crazy. And I think, like out of a movie kind of thing. And,
yeah.
Well, did you having that experience? What did you take away from that experience as far as like maybe something from the business or maybe musically being with him each night?
Yeah, he's so wise. And of course, he and I have very different trajectories, right? Like he did not grind it out, this is no insult, like no knock on him. He's wonderful and there's no reason he should have. But so I like to think he learned something from me also.
Yeah.
But we talked a lot and he was just really wise. And I think what was really challenging, that Santa Barbara Bowl was the first show we did together. And I said, what do you want me to do? He said, no, just be like you are on the album. And I said, yeah, that works. Like that was 180 people in Mississippi. And Santa Barbara Bowl was like on the smaller end. That's only about 5,000. I think we were doing mostly 20,000, 18,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And, he was just sort of saying like, just don't worry. Like, look to see who's listening. And actually his bass player gave me really good advice because every night there'd always be a really packed like front little pit. Yeah. And, that was probably 1,000 people maybe, but, his bass player said to me, he's like, that's your coffee shop right there. Play to the people that you can fathom. Because then I remember the night at the Gorge, 22,000, you can't even see the people. It's insane. And so he's like, just play to these people. They'll get it. People in the back will get it. And so that's what I did. And I think it worked, it worked okay. It's hard. It's really hard to play to those kind of people. On the other hand, it's also really easy. They're so excited. If you just walk out there and you go, "What's up, Santa Barbara?" the place goes insane.
They're waiting to scream something.
You literally it was actually kind of complicated to do bits because everyone, it's something about, I think, human nature and being around that many people, you're just so electrified that little things will spark it off. And so I had a little bit jokingly about like how I minored in Grateful Dead at Santa Cruz, right? It's a dad joke, but it's something.
Right.
Supposed to get a laugh, but by saying Grateful Dead to that crowd, they would cheer instead of laugh, things like that. Or maybe I'm just telling a bit where I say a city name, and just saying any city name to a crowd that big, people cheer. And so it was interesting to navigate. I really couldn't be subtle. I had to like really deliver the lines. Like, I felt for like people who are comedians to those kind of like stadium crowds. You really have to be like the Bill Burr and like the you can't be a little Stephen Wright and sort of hey, how's it going? It's hard. And so
you got to use your voice, right? Like literally,
you can't give him an inch.
Yeah, and I remember I played the Gorge, and then we had a week off, and I went over to the East Coast and I played a little house concert, just out of someone's garage, and it was nice. I was like, oh, I missed this. This is really good. And I'm not knocking those giant shows, but it was a great learning experience. And if I ever get to that place again, I'll know how to handle it better. And I got better at it throughout the summer, but I am very grateful for the manageable crowds,
In the
Amazing.
In the years that you were slugging it out, playing in the coffee shops, and I'm sure this might be a dumb question, but did you ever want to quit?
No, not really. I mean, I think I felt like I should a lot, and I remember there were times in my 20s where I like had a girlfriend who was like really nice, but also kind of like, what are you doing? And, it's hard to be like, hey, baby, I'm going to leave for 2 months and come back with probably $0, but I won't lose any, I think there were times where I thought, am I stupid? Am I crazy? Is this sad that I'm doing this? And of course sometimes you just really have those soul crushing nights where you would I remember like certain nights where there just is nobody there. You know what I mean? Like the barista is not in the music room maybe, and there's just no one and you don't know what to do. It's very awkward.
Oh, wow.
And maybe you really thought someone was going to come. And so those nights were really hard. But like I said, I didn't expect any better. So if every night was like that, maybe I just would have, it wouldn't have been sustainable. But there were enough nights of something that kept me going and made me feel like it's just, music is so weird because in the beginning, really, it's not that it's selfish, but it's like, no one's asking you to do this, right? Nobody is calling you up on the phone. Right. We need your music. So it's a little selfish in that you're like, I got to do this, but you don't. It's really nice when all of a sudden somebody wants you to do it. It feels like I gotta for the people, It's like
they're asking for it.
Wyoming is like, baby, I gotta go, But that matters. It's really hard when nobody, or at least when you think nobody wants it.
So like, what do you do literally during those times where you can't see the barista? Where you're thinking like, oh, my homies were gonna show up, it's flat, and it's you and like one or two people, like, or you and you. What, like, how do you get, is it like a practice at that point, or do you still kind of go along with the show?
It would depend. I mean, I'm not crazy. I wouldn't be up there like doing bits to no one and stuff. But I mean, maybe that's not crazy, but that would feel crazy to me. I would have lost it. I really wasn't doing that many bits back then anyway. It was too awkward in a coffee shop with somebody yelling out like, iced latte, if there was nobody, I would sometimes just wait until somebody came, unless there definitely were times where they're like, we're paying you to play. If there was a place that was like a bar, it's a better. So I did that plenty of times. If there was one person, that was plenty for me. And I had some really nice moments like that, where someone's in the corner and they're working, or they're at least, they're happy about it. I would just try to play to the mood, softer songs in that sense. And there was also times where yeah, I'd rather not play to an empty room, because then someone walks in and again they think you're crazy. Like,
What's
so
he doing?
yeah, it's kind of repelling. So often I would just chill until people came, and there probably were nights where the barista was like, yeah, you don't have to do this, and we would just sit there and talk. And I remember nights like that too, and them asking me kind of like, this, you do better than this normally, right? This isn't. Oh yeah, last night you should have seen it.
1,000 people.
Dang, John,
You should have seen me at the gorge.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
you just have a really good attitude about all of it, about the industry, about a slow upcoming, about playing to empty rooms, about your parents, not understanding right off the bat. Like, it really reflects in your music.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. Like, until you meet somebody, you can only assume who they are. When it's a musician, they're pouring their heart out, but still, that's them emoting. You don't really get to know who they are. But talking to you and listening to your music, you really do kind of get a sense of like, there's this positive, soul that really writes some really incredible music. Like, honestly, your lyrics are beautiful and like fun to chew on, and you've got really good musical vibes. Like, just it's a really beautiful pace, and it feels good. It's like getting into a jacuzzi or something. Like, it's a good experience.
It's always cool to like hear the music, but when we meet the person and the person matches the music, because it doesn't always happen. But when the person matches the music, it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then that's a good segue to my question, because I was wondering too, being such a like accomplished good songwriter, singer, and everything, have you been approached by like bands wanting to pick you up as a singer?
No, that's never happened. That's very sweet of you to ask.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Down.
Yeah, because a lot of that's one thing. There's a lot of good bands out there, but sometimes they don't have a good front man.
Well, you're talking about the jam band world. There is no good singers.
Let's
be honest, man.
Well, that's why I was wondering. Like, hey, man, you're really good, but I mean, I could see that'd be hard for somebody like you to leave like what you do, doing it for yourself, by yourself, for your fans, to like go join a band and then have to deal with all that. Like, yeah,
that'd be very sweet. I mean, I sometimes have fantasies of like a CSNY kind of thing,
Oh yeah.
Picking out three friends and Bonnie Light Horseman. I don't know if you know those guys, but that's a newer Aeneas Mitchell and Eric from Fruit Bats. They have sort of a little super group that's great. It's not so common these days, but that's something I kick around in my head sometimes, but it's harder these days. I think everyone's really just trying to do their thing and make it work. It's just not we're not all like millionaires on Warner Brothers who are just have the, money to throw around on an album. But yeah, but that's sweet of you to ask. No, that's not.
That'd be cool if we were all millionaires on Warner Brothers. I'm not hating on it.
Or just millionaires to go get, pull bands there. Be like, let's get John and Keller Williams and
come to the house and play.
Nathaniel Moore. We'll put these guys all on stage together.
What was the name of the jam band that you were in, John?
I can tell you, Pond Rock, PONDROCK. And it was very much of the time. Santa Cruz, we formed, I think, in 2000, 2001, which was like, it seemed to me a peak of that wave of jam, at least in the West Coast. It was everywhere. And I did not know how to jam. And I remember I was living across the street from this guy, Jay, a year older, very cool. And he came over one day and he said something like, we had this Halloween party planned that was like 3 days away. And our band canceled. And I was like, oh no, what are you gonna do? He's like, can you guys come over tonight? Maybe we'll just like try something out. And I was from the LA mindset of like, you got to have songs and stuff. And we get over there and he starts saying something like, all right, this song is like A to G. And it was me and my friend on guitar. And then there was a drummer and bass. And he said, all right, John, just you like play around in the A major scale. And so I'm over there, ping pong, beep, beep, boom, like not very good. And then at some point I looked up at him. He was like, all right, now Leo, you do that. And Leo did that. And then he's like, I'll do it. And, 15 minutes later, we stopped the song. And then he goes, all right, this one's D minor. And just like, jet up, and then like, same thing. And I remember he said, like, this is what we'll do on Friday. And I was like, people are going to hate this. And I remember, like, we get to the party and people are like, so, you know, it was Santa Cruz at that time. People were out of their minds. Like, and I just looked at him and I was like, can we do this again? And he's like, we can do this every weekend if you want. This is Santa Cruz. That's what happened. We, of course, like, we eventually wrote songs and stuff like that, but it really wasn't much more complex than that. It was really baseline jam. And I like to tease Pond Rock. They were great guys, but we were not very talented. I remember one time after graduation, we tried to give it a go in the real world, and it wasn't going, in Santa Cruz. And I just remember at one point, Jay turned to me. He was like, you know what our problem is? And I was like, what? He's like, someone's got to be good in a jam band.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, someone does. And he's like, and none of us are good. I was like, you're right. None of us are good. He's like, that's our problem. And then we broke up. It was great.
Wow.
Are you into jam music at all?
I think I have a soft spot for the things from that era. So obviously the Dead, which I think is a much more complicated thing than just a jam band.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else was at that time. A lot of Sound Tribe. We were going to the Slip. Fish from that era is great. Like a lot of stuff that I was really getting into from that era, I can still kind of it's nostalgic for me. But you wouldn't find me listening to like a modern jam band. Nothing, with all due respect. Of course,
It's not your.
I'm a lyrics guy, and I think in general, a lot of the jam bands, that's not what they're putting their energy on. So I don't fully engage all the time. But not to say that they don't have that, or there's a lot of great jam bands out there.
I would.
Yeah. So what kind of songwriters are you listening to now?
Oh man, so many. These days, I'm so blessed to have just so many great songwriter friends. Between Isaacoff and this guy Dean Johnson, who I'll be touring with this summer, Cassie Veloza, Bella White, Shook Twins, and I just met this guy Leif Bollebeck, who I've been really into. He was at a festival, and it's just really goes on and on. So that's really awesome time right now. I think in the songwriter world, it's really kind of exploding, and I think there's a good market for it. It just seems like people can make it go.
Well, I think that the thing with singer-songwriter is it's an emotional thing on a different level than jam music or pop or whatever. It's a person-to-person connection with the lyrics. And the way the world is right now and the time that we're in, we need that connection with other people, man, more than ever. And it's important.
Yeah. I was just going to ask about Cascade, because Cascade Equinox is coming up, and you and the Shook Twins are going to be, is this like a joined set, the whole set, or what?
Yes, they have their own set, I think, on the Friday. I'll be coming up just to watch. And then Saturday we have a joint set, which we have done now the past 3 or 4 summers, either at Topaz, or I think last summer we did it at the one McMinimans that's a little farther west, Grand Lodge.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's great. Yeah. And I've been touring a lot with their band this summer. So it'll be all real family. And we do a lot of collaboration stuff anyway. And so it comes really natural to us. Like I said, it's been now that's 14 years of this. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great pairing, you meeting them and everything. Obviously, that.
The universe conspired.
The first time we saw the Shook Twin, what was it? The Summer Meltdown?
No,
it was Northwest String Summit 2019. It just blew our door. We're like, what is this? Because then there's like this lore to learn about the egg, the golden egg, and all the different things, and they're so fun, and the cooing, and
they turned that little hollow that we were into like a fairy wonderland while they were. It was so mystical and cool and like otherworldly while they were on. I remember Mel was. You got sprung. And we had just interviewed them.
Well, we had just interviewed them, and they sounded like sirens. We're coming up. We weren't there right when they started, so we're starting to walk, and it was our first Northwest String Summit. We didn't know where we were going, but we just hear this like. It sounded like mermaids. It sounded like a siren, and I'm like, what the heck? And then you just see all these like twinkling lights, and you know, and then I mean, I'm sure you know their song Stay Wild. That
Yes.
the beginning of that song is starting and we're like kind of trekking to get there. And it was just such a memorable experience to see. First of all, they're gorgeous and they're all their glory in their outfits. But then that, like Aaron said, that magical fairyland and that song, it was entrancing. It was, you know, like, again, like sirens calling you in, and then they get there and doom, you're hooked. We've been hooked ever since. We love those ladies so much.
We're performing Saturday at Cascade as well, so maybe we'll get to see you, man.
Oh, cool.
Say
What
hi.
band?
No, just us. We're doing a live
We're just doing a
podcast.
live-
You're doing a
Yeah.
live podcast. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Nice. Yeah. I'll come say hi.
Cool. Okay, before we go, I got to know, who is your like comedy Mount Rushmore?
Ooh, great question. I mean, there's like the ones that I would be proud to say, and then the people that like I was listening to as a kid, which are not that great
Right.
historic in hindsight.
Yeah.
But just in full honesty, like as a child, what was around me was like Seinfeld. You know, you always find Bill Cosby records in like dollar bins. So I remember one kid like had like a Play School record player.
Huh?
You know, and had like 10 Bill Cosby records. And again, not a great thing to be listening to now, kids, but at the time we didn't know. And it was like, it's a standard level of like stand-up comedy that I learned a lot from, I think. And I watched a lot of Seinfeld, things like Conan O'Brien and Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons. I know these aren't necessarily like stand-up comics, but these are things that really shaped my sense of humor for sure. A lot of SNL really as a kid. I really loved it. And a lot of Simpsons. And those are really groundbreaking. And then I think on the flip side, things like a John Prine and Arlo Guthrie.
Oh yeah.
Loudon Wainwright, Todd Snyder, Greg Brown. These are people just good storyteller. You know, like someone like John Prine is not really someone who is up there doing bits. If you listen to the few live albums he put out, it's really subtle. But obviously it's there, and it was hugely influential on me. Even people like Jimmy Buffett and people I don't really listen to now that I was coming across that have essences of that. Steve Goodman, if you know who that is, Jim Croce, like all these people that just even within the songwriting is an element of cleverness and like lightheartedness that was really special to hear after listening to like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains stuff, you know, throughout my childhood, which is also great, but very serious and kind of like one note. Again, no disrespect to these who are also my heroes too, you know.
Oh yeah, very heavy stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
I'll say this, and I'll say lastly, like what was really influential for me was people like Pryor, because there was that element of seriousness sometimes in the bits. There's a couple Richard Pryor bits where he's not being funny. You know what I mean? He's like, he's almost, it gets emotional. And there were moments like that as a kid that I would listen to comedians, and some I can't, you know, that were like being almost musical in the way of like, this is, and early Chappelle and Chris Rock did some stuff like that too. So some of these people really kind of blew my mind in that you could do that. It was really special.
Carlin was like that.
That's
too.
what I was getting.
Yeah, Carlin too. Carlin's great, man.
Yeah,
I listened to a lot
serious.
Me and Aaron both let your the comparison that was thrown at you of being compared to Arlo Guthrie and Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg's one of our favorite comedians ever. The only one that's really comes above that is George Carlin.
Yeah. Hedberg and Wright, I love the way that they are so calm on stage, which is not normal for comedians. I think I agree with that Hedberg comparison, although I think our humor is very different. You know, he's more of like the one-liner type stuff. But I do think I listened to an interview with him once before he passed where he was talking about the jazz influence that, you know, he had that sort of like beat poet and jazz singer influence that I think people like Arlo and myself also had, just trying to sound cool up there, you know, trying to sound like you're not freaking out.
Yeah.
Well, it works.
And Stephen Wright was another. I can still remember the first joke I ever heard of Stephen Wright's where he just standing there. He goes, I own all of the erasers to all of the golf pencils in the world. and like half the, like he's so like half the crowd, it took them like 5 seconds to get it. Some of them got it right away. And then you hear the laughter start like, oh, okay, I get it. They don't have an eraser, blah, blah.
John, before we go, do you have anything coming up that you want to announce besides Cascade?
Yeah. When is this dropping?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Cool. Yeah, I have, well, let's see, this Friday, which will be in the past, I have a single that's dropping off of a new live album, really is what I should talk about, in September.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, with brand new live album that was recorded at the Aladdin and at Rev Hall over the course of a couple different shows. And that's always exciting for me because I really like the live albums. They capture, I think, a very honest part of my craft. And so this is my third live album, and it's called John Craigie Greatest Hits ... Just kidding, live no hits is what it's called. The manager loves those titles.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself, what are we doing? You know?
And then if people want to find out more about you, where do they go? Because I know I looked at your tour dates. You got a lot coming up all the way through October, November.
Yeah, totally. Going all across the country. So yeah, you can just Google my name or johncraigiemusic.com, Instagram, all those things. Just usually the internet makes it hopefully pretty easy.
And not in an Astro van.
Correct. Yeah, mostly rented cars these days because I fly out. But I do have a Subaru here in Oregon.
Of course, you live in Oregon. You have to have a Subaru. It's required living here.
It was given to me as I passed through the gates.
Yeah, us too. We got the same one. We'll see you at Cascade, man.
Right on.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah, this is really fun.
Thank you, John.
Have a good night, brother.
See you.
Wow. What's John Craigie, everybody?
Right on.
That's the real deal. Like,
yeah.
Like just
I just love his whole thing, like lowered expectations, and like I mean, kind of like that's how he's approached everything, and just like I wasn't expecting much, so what I got, I was always happy with, like breaking even,
true,
like
man.
Breaking even, not losing money for years and years,
I'm
and
still
just
doing it, so it's fine. Like
yeah.
It's like serious and not at the same time.
But
do you know what I mean by that? Like he's clearly serious about his craft.
Oh yeah,
and his writing.
You don't learn to play like that and
exactly.
Sing like that. Yeah, no.
But then also like, so what? I'm doing this.
Well, that's like the trippy part of it is to be grateful for all the little stuff, right? But still dreaming.
Yeah,
and not being crushed when the dream isn't happening,
and being talented. Because I mean, like you said, how many CDs do you think Jack Johnson has piled up that were given to him, and that this a room full.
I wonder how many CDs John Craigie gets.
Luck, but like how are the stars aligned for that to happen? Him and his wife are driving. It's like, well, we got this.
Might as well
Let's put this in, and then to be impressed, and then all of a sudden you're going from a coffee shop to stepping on stage at the Gorge and the Greek and Santa Barbara Bowl. Like, wow, it was meant to be, John.
Yeah. All right, everybody. John Craigie, go get the new album.
Follow him on the socials. Support him. Buy the merch.
Is that a thing that you say? Get the new album? Or would you stream the new album? I guess you can buy the new album.
Albums are super hot again right now.
They're so hot.
They're so hot right now.
Okay.
So yeah, buy the album. It's a real. You know what? You're from Portland. You're like some swanky little party. Your friends are over, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna bust out my brand new live John Craigie album. That's dope to do.
And then you take that album art, you put it on the little shelf, like people we know have those, like right above your playing now.
I will say this about John Craigie, everyone, if you're not familiar with him, the studio stuff is amazingly well crafted, beautiful songwriting, amazing playing. He's a master of his craft. But if you want to get a feel for the full picture of John Craigie, listen to the live albums. The one he did at Mississippi Studios is so funny and so good, and yeah, I can't wait to hear the new one.
And he's got the new one coming out.
All right. Well, that's that. And we will be back on Monday with another episode of the No Simple Road Weekly Rewind. Everybody get your tickets for Cascade Equinox Festival. Go see John Craigie and the Shook Twins and Daily Bread and Closey and
Jungle,
and
STS9,
us,
Kitchen Dwellers. I mean, there's
Stranger.
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. And until then, take care of each other. Smile at a stranger. Safety third.
Love one another. Love yourself.
Hydrate.
And don't take yourself too seriously.
And get that winter like fall winter garden all set up. It's about that time. Everybody's gonna start getting weird. All right. Talk to y'all soon. We love y'all. Peace.
But it's a burden. Family needs has been deferred, and hella means been the earth, and alchemy can bring the birth, the melody of a newborn. So persistent, so resistant, so insistent, so commitment, so resilient, or haven't you learned it? Just one simple road. Shattered as I focus through the spot in the corner that is still intact. The react is both a defense mechanism as well as a fear. We've traveled this road before, so we may think, but it's a tad bit of strange similarities that feed an A=A complex. The fears of your past do not equal the perplexities of the current road.
Hi, this is Henry Kay, host of the #1 music history podcast, Rootsland. Come with me on a journey to Kingston, Jamaica, where we explore the world of reggae music and the untold stories of some of the genre's greatest legends. From the ghettos and tenement yards where the music was born, to the island's iconic recording studios. We are so excited to team up with Osiris Media, the leading storyteller in music, because as you'll hear, sometimes the story is the best song.